Most of us don't have to worry literally about where our next meal was coming from and whether or not we'll get one, or about the clothes that we're going to wear in terms of we need enough clothes to shelter us and to keep us warm. Most of us don't have to worry about that, although those who heard Jesus when he spoke these words the first time, many of them did have to worry about that, where their next meal was coming from. But for us, we got other things to worry about. Worry about paying the mortgage. Worry about paying the bills. Worry about paying for health care insurance. We end up worrying about an illness or injury to ourselves or to somebody else, that it might happen or that it is already happening, and what are we going to do about it? And we worry about a relationship when it gets bumpy and goes on the rocks and it's troubled, and what are we going to do with it? And what should I do next, or should I do anything? Or we get, you know what I'm talking about? All right. And in the midst of that, in the midst of our worrisomeness, somebody might say to us, like Bobby McFerrin sang some years ago, "Oh, don't worry, be happy." Thanks. Or we might say to ourselves, I know that worrying's not going to do any good. It's not going to solve anything. Or as one person said, it's foolish to tear our hair out over our troubles, as though our troubles would be made less by baldness. I tried it and it didn't work. So there you go. And this kind of an approach kind of says that life is an anxious project where we have to work it out all by ourselves, and the responsibility is all up to us, and we don't know how we're going to do it. So it just kind of weighs heavy on us. So, we'd like to silence the worry inside of us, but it's not all that easy, is it? We end up in some sleepless nights. Worrying like this can bring about two things, at least. One is that it puts us into a mind where we are troubled, distressed, fearful, and anxious. It just kind of builds inside and makes us feel kind of real tight inside because we're the ones that think we have to solve the problems all by ourselves. And when we do that, when it feels like our feelings are out of control, we try to establish some control. Where do I get some security? So we go to the first part of the gospel. It says you can't give yourself both to God and to money. Well, we'll find our security in money. Well, it's good to be financially secure. I'm not against that at all. But that's not going to do it. It doesn't solve what goes on inside of us, because we worry about those things which matter most to us, as well as other things. But money's not going to do it. And so then we try to control things. Try to control everything so that everybody does what they're supposed to do. So we want some sense of security, and if we think we can control things, that would be great, and control others, that would be wonderful. Get them to do what we want them to do. Of course, that doesn't work so well, does it? People don't want to be controlled, and we have a hard enough time controlling ourselves, our feelings, sometimes too. So that's one response that we can have to all that worry. The other one is we can turn to God, believing that God has some real effect in our lives and that he can move strongly and powerfully in our lives to make things happen. And it's not just something that's going on up in our heads, it's something that is real. So we can turn to God and say, God, you got a lot of things to worry about here, but I'm turning to you because I need your help. I need your presence. I need you to work something out, because I believe, and I suspect that you have experienced it in some ways too, that God has much more in mind for us than we can even imagine. And he's working in our lives in ways that we can't even think of or dare hope for. There's a story I found that kind of helps me out in this. Anyway, it's one Easter morning in the town of Feldkirch, Austria. The people woke up to the sight of Napoleon's army preparing to attack the town. Not knowing what to do, they all gathered in the church. Pastor got up and said, "Friends, we have been counting on our own strength, and apparently that has failed. And this is the day of the Lord's resurrection. So, let us just ring the bells, have our services as usual, and leave the matter in God's hands." We know only our weakness and not the power of God to defend us. They accepted his plan and rang the church bells. The enemy, upon hearing the sudden ringing of the bells, concluded that the Austrian army had arrived during the night to defend the town. So, by the time the service ended, the enemy had broken camp and left the area. So far as I know, this is a true story. What just happened there? Same thing that can happen in our lives. We know only our weakness and not the power of God. The power of God in our lives. So I ask you to reflect with me a little bit. How many times have things worked out beyond what we could have thought or controlled for ourselves? In getting a job, for example. Well, this person told me, and I just heard about it, and I went there and I got the job. It was the best job of my life. Or I got fired from this job, and it's like, well, I didn't know what to do, so I prayed, and somebody says, "Hey, I got a job over here, and I like this one even better." That happened to me once before I got into campus ministry. I had a friend who was in this campus ministry parish and this Newman Center, and was told about this, and so I contacted the Franciscans, and it's like, okay, and I got the job. Okay, great. I used to travel in some other ministries I had before here, and can't tell you how many times things got messed up in the travel, and things kind of got straightened out. The kindness of somebody, going to be late to catch a plane, and the plane didn't take off because they were delayed. Not that God made the plane delay. I don't know what happened, but I know that it worked out. What am I worried about? Can you think of things like that? It may be that through the kindness of a stranger, it's made all the difference in the world. Maybe through some of the friends that we have. How did that work out? I believe that God's working in our lives and working through other people as well. In a troubled relationship, for example, when you're on rocky ground, it's important to believe that God is working not only in my life, but in the life of somebody else. Grace is there. And if this is a good relationship, it'll work out. And if not, the grace will say, let it go. Walk away. But God's grace is working in us to help us to come to peace and love with one another. It's God's grace moving powerfully in this world. How many times has it happened to you? Can you identify? There it is. And it happens in the parish. I know in some of the history of the parish, what started here through the parishioners, not through the pastor? Well, Fall Festival. The volunteer appreciation dinner. The parish family picnic in July. That's more distant. And more recently, the bus ministry. The Alive thing and the way that social activities have become more of a building force in our parish. People working through VEEP and helping us to sharpen and to bolster our outreach in social justice. That didn't come from me. If I thought that I had to come up with every good thing that this parish was supposed to do and to develop this all stuff, I'd be in the loony bin by now. I know full well that God works through you just as much, sometimes I think even more, than he works through me. The Christmas giving tree. Go ask those people who received the gifts from that tree what they thought. Well, you don't have to ask them, they told us. What a gift from God. Thank you for being God's messenger. That's what they say. God is alive, active. You don't need to worry. No. So let's say you got big worry wart over here and a person who totally trusts in God over here. I'm in between. I'll confess that. I don't know where you are. I still have some sleepless nights. But I'm practicing my faith. I'm practicing letting go. I'm practicing turning things over to God and trying to trust him. And when I get there, I sleep much better, and I find God's presence more powerfully because it's already there. So with these things in mind, I want to read part of that gospel again, where it says, "Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life. Can any of you, by worrying, add a single moment to your lifespan? But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness." The kingdom of God is within. The kingdom of God is where God reigns. That we hold on to him in the midst of it all. God reigns in my heart. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, his place in our lives. And all these things will be given you beside. Do not worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow will take care of itself. Sufficient for a day is its own evil. We got enough troubles today. And God is present in this day too.